Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulses. I about music, movies, art and culture, and this is Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. And seemingly, just like that, Taylor Swift is back at the #1 slot. There's honestly more to this week, a shockingly amount more really. Looking at the charts, you think it's outright chaos down there. But really, so much of today's story revolves around Taylor Swift and Bad Blood. Yeah, Kendrick Lamar plays a pretty major part too, but his verses are kind of peripheral here, a part of the machine that gave a new #1 signal on the charts. A precisely timed marketing push that sent the song surging up radio, sales, streaming, and YouTube to take that top spot. And keep in mind, Taylor's not on Spotify either. The growth of Bad Blood is nothing short of a minor phenomenon, and it really does eclipse most of what's happening beneath it, which is kind of a good thing because what was happening beneath it kind of really sucked. So okay, top 10, Taylor Swift, Bad Blood, the remix of Kendrick Lamar taking her to the #1 spot, crushing sales on YouTube, surging in the top 20 in airplay, and still making a sizable impact in streaming regardless. It easily takes the top spot. But let's dig into a little bit deeper of why it's such a smash hit, because it was following an analogous template that Katy Perry used with E.T. when she released the remix with Kanye West. Kinda hilarious because, to correct myself from last week, apparently this song is all about a falling out, apparently with Katy Perry, and we all remember the hilarious incident with Kanye 6 years ago. So I can kind of appreciate the irony with it at least. But still, two rap verses of middling quality that cross over onto radio stations that will play hip-hop from a hot MC right now, an exceedingly well-timed video designed to maximize rotations during the chart cycle, debuting through an award show, and of course, using her massive YouTube fan base to push her overwrought and yet kind of underwhelming video to the very top. This is what I think Taylor Swift gets over many of her contemporaries right now in pop music. She gets that to get to the top, you need to play all of the angles. And it's probably the reason why she was able to knock back See You Again by Wiz Khalifa and Charlie Puth to #2. Another song that was precisely calibrated to take that top spot. It still had a solid week this week. I'd look at the top airplay slot, still solid sales, still on top in streaming, but just not enough to stay up there. But let's consider the songs beneath it and ask the question why they will not take the top slot and probably will never take it right now. Let's start with Trap Queen by Fetty Wap at #3. Sure, great streaming and respectable sales, but airplay looks to have peaked, and it never did have YouTube. Similar case with Shut Up and Dance by Walk the Moon at #4. Great song, better sales, still gaining on airplay, not great streams, but getting better, but again, there's no YouTube there. Beneath it, we got Earned It by The Weeknd, which finally lost its radio peak and spent this week falling to #5 thanks to hemorrhaging airplay sales and kind of shaking streaming. Again, no real YouTube, but it never really had it to begin with. Compared to Uptown Funk by Mark Ronson and Bruno Mars at #6, it took sizable hits in airplay and sales this week, and its streaming not solid, but it does have YouTube, and thus I suspect it might hold on a little bit longer than some of its contemporaries. Take Want to Want Me by Jason Derulo at #7. Very good airplay gains this week, but sales and streaming kinda shaky, and I reckon in the face of some stronger competition, it'll falter and fall back a little bit. And we got some of that with another top 10 debut with Hey Mama by David Guetta, Nicki Minaj, and Afrojack, a song I really wish that I liked a lot more than I did. It's been doing a lot to rise up the charts right now despite some terrible lyrics thanks to gains pretty much across the board, with a new video giving it just enough of a push to get to #8. It knocks back Sugar by Maroon 5 down to #9. And let's be clear, Sugar is losing across the board, but it's losing at a very slow rate. Maybe the radio is keeping it around so it doesn't have to let that other Maroon 5 song get to the top, but we'll get to that a bit later. And finally, we've got Nasty Freestyle by T. Wayne slipping to #10. Apparently fraught with some controversy this week. Remember that song Nasty by Bandit Gang Marco lower down the charts? Well, apparently this song was a freestyle over that beat, somewhat, which the producer then responded by hurling an arsenal of takedown notices on YouTube at it. T. Wayne then responded by re-recording it over a slightly different version of the beat to avoid all the copyright complaints. But it was enough to hurt the song's streaming significantly to #10. Didn't really hurt the sales all that much, and the radio and YouTube continue to completely ignore it. But it might be a song that song's on a little bit shaky ground going forward, and good thing too, because it's terrible. And on that note, let's talk about our losers and dropouts. On the one hand, the loss of A Guy Walks Into the Bar by Tyler Farr and Geronimo by Beth Shepherd does kind of suck, but they were both at the end of their chart runs, so I can kind of understand it. Similar case for Say You Do by Dierks Bentley and I'm Not the Only One by Sam Smith. But the really great news is the loss of Throw Some Mo by Ray Shrimmer featuring Nicki Minaj and Young Thug. With a run my calculations predict will keep it just shy of the year-end list for 2015, and thank God for that. But really, it was at the end of his chart run too, and that's really the story for most of our losers this week too, good or bad. Lay Me Down by Sam Smith continuing to slip to 56, 4 or 5 Seconds by Rihanna, Kanye West and Paul McCartney falling to 66, Heartbeat Song by Kelly Clarkson dropping to 71, and One Last Time by Ariana Grande taking a big hit to number 40. All these songs are are steadily heading out naturally. They're near the end of their runs. Then you get your just non-starters like the DJ Khaled Posse Cut, How Many Times with Chris Brown, Lil Wayne, and Big Sean, or Believe by Mumford & Sons. Although it's likely in both those cases that both those songs blow and the public simply responding to it. The surprise drop for me was the drop on Raise 'Em Up by Keith Urban and Eric Church to 84. I honestly thought that song would have had more staying power than it did, given the collaboration in it being really a damn good song. But then again, I guess country radio would rather take another single from Luke Bryan than this. Trust me, we'll get to it. But before we get on to that, let's talk about our gains this week. Most of them are fairly easy to explain. The Night Is Still Young by Nicki Minaj follows its boost from last week to 51. Fun by Pitbull and Chris Brown gets an easy boost to 54, not exactly surprising heading into the summer. And I Need Your Love by Shaggy, Mohambi, Fady, and Kosti rises to 73. Then we've got our boost that surprised me a little bit more. One Hell of an Amen from Brantley Gilbert rises up to 77, despite being a little bit more melancholy than one would expect for this sort of early summer single. Same case for Ed Sheeran, although I'm guessing his performance on The Voice helped him a little bit there too, getting Photograph up a little bit. Then there was Uma Thurman from Fall Out Boy getting another boost of popularity to 70, its highest position yet. I'm under no illusions that this song is gonna be a hit, but it's nice to see the boost. I really like the song. Of course, it's matched by a track that's far, far worse. This Summer's Gonna Hurt Like a Motherfucker by Maroon 5, which did not for Taylor Swift be the biggest gain this week as it rises to 31. And I have to ask America, why? The majority of people I've talked to, especially old school Maroon 5 fans, absolutely hate this song. Just because the summer is starting doesn't mean you have to support the worst song in 3 years from Maroon 5 on the basis of its title. And here's the thing, remember Pretty Girls by Iggy Azalea and Britney Spears? No? Me neither? Okay, it took off nowhere near as much as they were planning, almost out of the top 40 right now, and it was about as obnoxiously unlistenable as this song is, so I'm serious, what gives? Ugh. In any case, we got a fair bit more obnoxiousness to get through in a couple of minutes, but let's get the one returning entry that I actually really like out of the way before we start digging into the garbage, shall we?
Wish we could turn back time to the good old days when the mama sang us to sleep, but now we're stressed out. Wish we could turn back time to the good old days when the mama sang us to sleep, but now we're stressed out.
I have to admit, Stressed Out would not make a list of the top 10 songs from Blurryface that I'd want to see chart, especially when your singles are fairly local and Tear My Heart, both much better songs. But you know what, Stressed Out is still quite listenable, and I'm happy to see 21 Pilots actually managing to sell records. It's an eerie little song, especially with that pitch-shifted outro, which single-handedly knocks it back for me, just not a fan of that. But the lyrics are still well-structured, Tyler Joseph does a good job selling the song, sort of the odd, uncomfortable tone and vibe, and the melody really sticks in your head obscenely well. Overall, considering what's on the rest of this week, I'll take it. This song was absolute crap the first time I talked about it, and I have no idea why it's back on the charts, considering Thomas Rhett hasn't actually released an actual music video for it, unlike our other returning entry. Forget the fact that only a few guitar fragments on the second verse barely make this a country song. Forget the fact that this song is a blatant, uncredited ripoff of Sam Cooke's Chain Gang. Forget the fact that the lyrics have this self-satisfied smirking air of a hapless douchebag. I think the element that I can't stand the most about this song is Thomas Rhett himself. His voice has this nasal tone that completely does not work in a mid to low range. It's got no richness or punch to it. Nothing that makes it stand out as he squawks over that elongated syllable over the chorus. It just makes my skin crawl. It screams of insincerity. It makes me want to club him in the face with that tire iron. In other words, I think I might have found this artist on the charts right now more detestable than Adam Levine. Next.
I'm feeling myself. 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 I'm feeling my. Change the game with that digital drop. Know where you was when that digital pop. I stopped the world. Male or female, it make no difference. I stopped the world. World stop.
Now, this is where it is thanks to the video, which I honestly expected months ago after Better Lies just went nowhere. And I feel like I've talked about this mediocre track 3 or 4 times already. And really, nothing's all that changed much. The production is still terrible thanks to the incredibly grating synthline and those constipated grunts that punctuate the chorus. Nicki's bars are the only redeeming factor, and I have no idea why Beyonce continues to think this ratchet material works for her whatsoever. And I might as well I'll talk about the video, which was made exclusively for Tidal because Jay-Z's desperately searching for some way to make it relevant. In short, I'm sorry, I'm underwhelmed by this. Yes, they filmed it at Coachella. Yes, they eat burgers and fries and act silly. Good for them. But does the video remotely fit the vibe of the song at all? That synth is way too dark and icy, the beat way too skeletal to fit into this sort of Technicolor track. In other words, I didn't like the song before, and okay, I'll give props to Beyonce and Nicki Minaj for flossing, but I still don't like Feeling Yourself. I'm sorry. Well, that was a little dispiriting. Let's hope our new arrivals are a little bit better. Starting with number 92, Change My Mind by Meghan Linsey.
But this is my life. Boy, you want me to change. Yeah, baby, I'll change my mind.
So here's a little something ugly about The Voice that people don't tend to know about in popular culture. There are indeed established artists who end up showing up as contestants on the show in order to boost their solo success. Believe it or not, there was a campaign to get Jason Isbell, yes, I'm serious, critically acclaimed country singer-songwriter who worked with the Drive-By Truckers on The Voice. Now, obviously he refused it, can't be surprised there, but our runner-up Meghan Linsey did not, even though she was once the frontwoman of Steel Mongolia, which actually formed on the second season of the reality show Can You Duet, so once reality show got to come back to it. Yeah, that band had a self-titled debut album that sold over 90,000 copies and a top 10 hit on the country charts. Granted, the group is now split up, but I can't be the only one who's just a little bit peeved that a show that's specifically marketing itself as picking up on talent that could be anyone, the new voice of America, is just doing crap like this. So okay, why bring all this up? Well, mostly because the song isn't very interesting. Really, the history is more interesting than that. Yeah, Lindsay's got a solid, soulful voice, and the choice of a piano ballad where she's dumping a guy, it's kind of intriguing, but I don't know, to me it falls into the same problem that I had with Beyonce's Best I Never Had. It's too stately and elegant, it plays itself with a lot of class. There's nothing that really fiery about this split, or even anything that suggests that she's burned here. You'd expect with her voice that she'd sound more raw or passionate, but I don't know, I guess it didn't really click for me. I guess the song is okay, but I'm not surprised she didn't win with this. Just saying. Number 88, Beautiful Now by Zedd featuring John Bellion.
But baby, tonight we're beautiful now. We'll light up the sky. We'll open the clouds. 'Cause baby, tonight we're beautiful now. We're beautiful.
Exactly surprised to see that Zedd's going to be rolling out another single now that his effort with Selena Gomez didn't land as powerfully as he was expecting. And while Beautiful Now is a better song than that, most thanks to the guitars in the chorus, and especially that keyboard progression over the second verse really sounded good, but I'm not sure what it is with this song. The backing vocals of the chorus holding the melody against the beat, the fact that John Bellion is so auto-tuned over the chorus, the fact that the song has this odd element of self-love and its celebration that just doesn't click with me in the same way. I don't know, I'm not really seeing the appeal here. I've been extremely hesitant to cover Zedd's new album, True Colors, but with this song, with the exception of the more danceable progression before on the bridge, it seems like my choice to mostly avoid the album is kind of paying off. I will say that the track's not bad, again, but he hit the high watermark with clarity for me, and many of the singers that he's tried to recruit since Fox's hasn't have the presence or personality to match his synthesizer tone, and that really does hurt him. Of course, the fact that deep house trends are becoming a lot more dominant in the mainstream in comparison with EDM, it's not helping him either. EDM's really coming across as kind of dated right now, but at the end of the day, I'm confident Zedd won't be hurt by it that much. He's got the festival circuit, he'll be fine. Number 68, Flashlight by Jessie J. So Pitch Perfect 2 came out last a couple weeks ago. I didn't see it opening its Mad Max Fury Road, so it's no surprise I chose to see that. I think my show choir phase kind of died at the end of the third season of Glee. But a lot of people did see that movie though, and this led to a hit song from that movie to end up on the pop charts. Now I've stuck up for Jessie J a lot in the past whenever I've reviewed her albums. She's got a raw intensity I think is really underappreciated, and the fact that she's often saddled with just lousy producers has not helped her. Unfortunately, I'm not really sure Flashlight was the track she needed to make the best use of that. mostly because it's a piano and strings driven power ballad that's so bare bones and generic, especially lyrically, that it was hard for me not to tune out very quickly. Part of it is that Jessie J spends a lot more of her time cooing quietly than belting, and that's definitely not a good use of her strengths. It doesn't help matters that Sam Smith and Sia's writing gives her nothing interesting to work with outside of just repeating syllables over the course, which I just can't stand. It's not a terrible song, but it is generic. I'll forget about this minutes after I hear it. Next, number 63, Old Man by Sawyer Fredericks. So as you all should know from watching Billboard Breakdown last week, Sawyer Fredericks won The Voice, which means he gets 2 songs that land in the Hot 100 this week. The first is a Neil Young cover from the early 70s, Old Man. And look, there's actually a fair amount about the presentation here I really like. For one, Fredericks is finally playing in a good vein for his voice, and the instrumentation isn't badly done with the thicker mid-range tones in the guitars, especially when it sounds like kind of a thin steel guitar over the chorus. It sounds good, it adds some personality. But you know what, I'm sorry, maybe I'm just a purist for the 70s here, but even at his most polished, Neil Young had a thicker bass tone and more acoustic texture to his songs. Although, to be fair to Fredericks, this is one of Neil Young's more polished and clean tracks, especially with the layering of the backing vocals on the pianos. Hell, I'd argue that Fredericks is throwing a lot more into the song than Neil Young did on some versions. In other words, it's fine enough, but Fredericks has had other songs that have done more. Hell, he did it last week. So, in other words, it's okay. Not great, but not bad either. Number 37, Please by Sawyer Fredericks.
Baby, I can say, please. You want me to get down on my knees. Baby, I can get down on my knees.
And now we've got his original song. And pretty much, of course, it's a gentle, mid-tempo acoustic ballad with country tones and some very clean organ and piano. I guess this is where things kind of come full circle with me for Sawyer Fredericks. Look, I can definitely acknowledge that he has improved since his debut on The Voice, but his maturity as an artist just takes him to the sort of white guy with acoustic guitar material that might be kind of earnest, but doesn't really rise above it. I listen to the song and I agree that it has some polish and sincerity, but there's nothing special about it lyrically that can redeem the bare bones presentation that's kind of generic. And Sawyer Fredericks' voice on this track, it basically feels like a poor man's John Mayer. Lord knows we did not need that, especially considering I'm not a fan of John Mayer. At least in Old Man there was personality thanks to Neil Young's writing, but here, nah, I'm sorry, not really feeling this. And finally, number 26, Kick the Dust Up by Luke Bryan.
We turn this cornfield into a party. Pedal to the floorboard and a better photo, burning up a back row song. Parking and we pile out, baby, watch your step now. Better have your boots on. Kick the dust up.
You know, I feel it's starting to become a routine that I hear about a terrible song coming up on Twitter, and then I just have to bide my time until I have to cover it on Billboard Breakdown, and indeed discover that it is, in fact, junk. In this case, it's the lead-off single from Luke Bryan's upcoming 5th album to drop in August, and unsurprisingly, it's a strikingly stiff and staccato track that completely feels out of place until we get to the chorus, where it's all crushed together into a mix where the cymbals are left to linger over the entire mix and completely kill any melody. I think the easiest offender on why this track doesn't work is that attempt at a melodic riff, which is so rigid that it completely does not fit with the thicker kick drums, that terrible synth over the first half of the chorus, any of the acoustic elements, and 4 bars of guitar solo that does nothing to redeem the gutless production that cranks the percussion up over any melody outside of that main riff. And the lyrics? Look, I get that it's often more tempting to skip the overpriced clubs and go out back into the countryside. I live in Toronto, for God's sake. I get getting overcharged to go into clubs. But are drought conditions so bad in the United States that parties out in the cornfields kick up dust? And why the hell did anyone think playing up Luke Bryan's smoother baritone over this stiff, awkward progression was remotely close to the good idea? And once again, why doesn't he sound like he's having any fun? And the worst part of it all is that the fact that at the end of the day, the only things that make the song distinctive than any other bro country track are the pieces that just annoy the hell out of me. In other words, skip it. And that was this week. And wow, it's been a while since I've seen a week that's this bad. So in that spirit, we're skipping the honorable mentions entirely this week and giving 2 dishonorable mentions. One to feeling myself for Beyonce and Nicki Minaj for pretty obvious reasons, I've talked about it so many times before, and one for Kicking Up Dust by Luke Bryan. It was safe from being the worst by at least trying to inject a real guitar guitar back into the final chorus that did kind of redeem it. The worst isn't even a contest again. Crash and Burn by Thomas Rhett, which is rapidly rising on my list, not just of the worst country songs I've heard this year, but of the worst songs, period. Seriously, we traded out Chris Young's newest single for this? And best of the week, I'm sorry, 21 Pilots, Stressed Out. Not a great 21 Pilots song, not one of the best on the album, but you know what? I'll take it if I have to. Let's hope for better next week, but until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.